Good morning, Dr. Victor Treviño, Mayor for the City of Laredo. I'm here with Congressman Cuellar to call this press conference to discuss the impacts of the federal government shutdown of local programs and, of course, action that we will take as mayor through the emergency powers if needed, and also along with City Council to offset the impacts that would be set on our community. To begin with, we're going in our 6th day of federal government shutdown. And to give some reference to the last government shutdown in 2018, which lasted 35 days, and the cost to the United States, according to the congressional budget, was around $11 billion. I have received several phone calls asking what the impact will be on us locally. And when it comes to the city of Laredo, even though now federal decision-making on several federal programs will be paused because of the furloughs, the city will continue to operate and perform our core services as a local government. However, I have been in continuous discussions with the congressman and our city manager to play out different scenarios and to evaluate different possibilities if the shutdown continues. And for example, if this shutdown continues past 10 days, which we're hoping it does not, I will be calling a special meeting of the City Council to plan for potential funding impacts we may see on our federally funded programs, and which also will affect employee positions. And depending on the program, the city may have to make some decisions on funding on these programs and possibly amending the budget of our city to bridge fund the programs. One of the many areas that may be impacted if the shutdown continues will be health services like WIC, Women, Infant, and Children programs, and SNAP, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Programs, where the city has about 70 employees involved in this administration. As someone that was in the health department for 36 years, I can tell you that these federally funded programs were critical for thousands of local Laredo families and expecting mothers in our community and children up to 5 years old. Without proper funding of these programs and other programs, the city of Laredo will definitely be impacted in a negative way without access to these programs. And it will create a critical public health situation for several families, and it will impact local hospitals with more avoidable emergency room visits. I know the public is asking why we have this shutdown, and I know the congressman will go into details on what's happening in Washington. But I will tell you as a doctor, people will not be able to afford health insurance if the premiums double. And there's no truth about identity fraud. That illegal immigrants have access to Medicaid and Medicare, which is simply not true. Where there is some truth is that people are barely making ends meet now, and they will not be able to afford more increases. So with that being said, I will pass the podium to Congressman so he can explain a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Mayor, thank you. I want to thank the mayor and the council and the administration for the leadership that they provide here. Every time something happens, there's a situation that mayor always takes that leadership. So I really appreciate you and the city council for the work that you do. A little bit of housekeeping. We have a roundtable set up in a conference room. So today we'll start off with a press conference, and then I got some folks that will be joining, and y'all welcome to join. We got business, we got education, we got Farm Bureau, we got ag folks, we got other folks here, housing, healthcare, and other folks that I want to hear from them. But we'll do this press conference. We'll take a few questions, and then we'll head over there, and everybody's invited. But the ones that will be speaking are the folks that are part of the roundtable, so we can give them the proper time. Let me first say this. So let me just lay out the scenario, why we're here. If you look at shutdowns from 1980, there's been about 16 shutdowns. The majority of them have been under Republican administrations. That's the facts. The other fact is right now our Republican colleagues control the White House, they control the Senate, and they control the House. And the narrative that's been put out there is that Democrats want health care for the illegals or the undocumented aliens. That is a false narrative, and I'll explain it. In 1996, when President Bill Clinton, signed the welfare reform, there was a law that was passed, or part of it, that says that undocumented aliens cannot get health care. 1996. The false narrative was used at that time, and it's still used right now. It's a narrative that they pick on undocumented aliens. Then in July and then August, our Republicans friends passed call it the beautiful or the ugly bill, whatever term you want to call it, where they again repeated the law, even though it was in 1996, but they added the language. It was already the law that says undocumented aliens cannot get health care, Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare. 1996, done. 2025, repeated again. So that's the law. So when they say that we are looking at, Democrats are looking for health care for illegal, it's a false narrative. I was out of the ranch the other day. BS. It's BS, quite honestly. It really is. In the summer, before they left, they had time to extend the tax cuts for the billionaires and added over $4 trillion. We'll be adding $4 trillion to the deficit. They had time to pass that tax extension, but they don't have time to do an extension for health care. In my congressional district, and Mayor, you know this very well, and the folks here, and we'll hear from them, over 113,000 people are going to get their insurance premiums, the affordable health care increase. If you're a hospital, you'll get somebody less or somebody that won't have that health care because they might not afford it. Your gateway, you still got to take people because you got to take them with or without insurance, money or no money. You got to take them, but still you make money by getting health care. Over 113,000 people that are now going to see their insurance premiums go up. Now, I got story after story. I got somebody, Matthew in San Antonio, Estela in San Diego, Rosario in San Diego, Ramon in Benavides, Tomas in Universal City, Mr. Wright's in Church Cities that are going to be affected. They're going to be affected by the shutdown. 113,000. Now, you tell those folks if they're illegal. They're U.S. citizens that depend on the Affordable Health Care Act. And also, on this big, beautiful, ugly bill, whatever term you want to use, it also will cut 55,000 people from Medicaid. Now, if you're a rural hospital like I sat the one in Stark County or in Atascosa County, you get less people that have Medicaid, or even here, that means 55,000 people are going to lose that. So over $1 trillion that will be cut from Medicaid. The false narrative is that they're all illegals. Now you tell me over $1 trillion or 55,000 people in my district, they're going to lose Medicaid. And also, they said they were not going to touch Medicare, right? They forgot that there's a law that kicks in when a certain debt comes in, and they will cut $500 billion from Medicare. Now, they put it in such a way that those cuts come in after the 2026 election. Purposely done. Purposely done. And on the tax cuts, and I'm sure some of y'all have been calling me about some ads running against Democrats, including myself. Oh, they're not supporting the tax credits for tips and overtime on that. Now, I support the working class, but why is it that the super rich get a permanent tax cut, and the working class, the tips and overtime are for 3 years? You know why 3 years? Somebody leaves in 3 years, I think. And that's why they did it. Now, I supported tax cuts, but when you do a tax cut for middle class for 3 years, and then for the super rich, where's Elmo Lopez? I don't want to pick on. No, I'm just kidding. But the super rich get a permanent tax cut, or I support the Second Amendment. Some of y'all don't like my position on the Second Amendment. I support the Second Amendment. But while we're cutting food, WIC, and other ones, should we do a tax cut for gun silencers? For gun silencers? And that's what we're doing. So why am I bringing this up? Because from day one this year, there's been a bill that's leading to where we are right now. And then the rescissions, as you know, I sit on the appropriations. Once we appropriate, the executive branch is supposed to use that funding. Some of y'all have called me up, Liz, no, but other folks have called me up because we appropriated and they're cutting. They're cutting. So we've been trying to say you can't do that on Article 1. So I mentioned those two bills because I could see a shutdown coming. And that's why I'm laying that groundwork, because I could see the groundwork coming. And that's where we are right now. Now, the funding comes in two buckets. One is the entitlements or the automatics, Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits. They're on automatic. Those will continue. But when they say they're going to have mass layoffs, which we never done that, they're furlough, which we pay them at the end of the shutdown, but they're doing mass, they're saying they're going to do mass layoffs. They already laid off a lot of people off, especially in the Department of Education and Labor and other places. But when the automatics come in and you have less people there, that means what? Delays. Delays in some of the checks because there's less people come in. Small Business Administration, other ones. Now, on our website, we put in things, what the agencies are doing, and we want to go ahead and provide that information. Now, the other thing is that I've never seen it's a hatch violation when the official government websites are attacking the Democrats. That's against the law. My God, that's against the law. Maybe that's why they got rid of the Inspection General, so nobody can say something on that. So I say all this because I could see this coming now. Now, on September 19th, there was a vote. I voted no. We still had time to work this out because I was very worried about the affordable health care. 113,000 people in my congressional district, thousands of them here in Laredo and Webb County and across the district. I was worried about them, Medicaid and other ones. And if they could extend the billionaires' tax cuts, they certainly could extend this one. And if you look at some of the studies, you know who gets more of these benefits? It's the red states, including Texas itself. So we had votes set up on the 29th of September and the 30th before the shutdown. We showed up last week, and guess what they did? They canceled votes. They canceled votes. Now tomorrow, we had votes set up for tomorrow all the way to Friday, and guess what? They cancel votes. They control the calendar. I was there last week, and I'm still flying there. See, maybe I'll find a Republican or somebody there, and we're there. And so they cancel votes, and they cancel votes last week and this week. That's what we're seeing is they control the calendar, and they control the House and the Senate, and of course the White House. Anybody remember Bob Bullock? Remember Bob Bullock? He had a particular way of running things, and I think if I was in charge, that little red button, I would do this. He would put people in the room and say, don't walk out, turn off the air condition, and say, you're not going to leave till you work this out. That's what we ought to do, is we ought to lock people up there in D.C. and say, Democrats and Republicans, do not walk out till you work this out. You don't cancel votes, because when you're back home, you don't talk. You got to be in the same room, and that's the way I would do it. The second thing I would do is I'd keep people there, don't go home, work it out. The second thing I would do is what I did. I can't speak for the other members of Congress like I've done in the past, and on the first day when there was a shutdown, I wrote a letter to the finance office and say, do not pay me until the shutdown is worked out. If the federal employees in my district are not going to get a paycheck, then I'm not going to get a paycheck. And I tell you, if everybody would do the same thing and they were up there in Washington, don't come home and don't have their paycheck, I promise you this could be worked out a lot faster if we lock everybody, no paycheck. But when they can get their paychecks, you know what, they'll be okay. So the employees, and I at church, I was there on Sunday, on Saturday. You were not there? Where were you? You went Sunday, Jerry. I always see Jerry on Sunday. I was sitting down with the Border Patrol, and I told them, and I've told other folks, you're not getting your paycheck, I'm not getting the paycheck. And I think that's the right thing to do. So we are going to sit down because I want to hear about housing. I want to hear about health care. I want to talk about impact on businesses. So we got our chamber here also. I want to hear about education. But there's another thing, Sharon and Dr. Leindecker, and I'm glad you're here. I hear it a lot in the rural areas. I hadn't heard this till Sharon called me. I'm familiar with the issue. And Tom Benavides also called me, but Sharon called me on this. New World screwworm, right, Les? We've talked about when we were with the chamber down there, with the Farm Bureau. If you're not familiar with that, it happened in the late 60s and 70s. And you know what? We beat it. We beat it in the 60s and 70s. What is that? It's a low fly that lays on live animals on a wound, and Dr. Landecker can explain this, but I'll just do this generally. And it drills, and it eventually kills the animal. They found it in Sabinas, and all you need is the right wind to fly this way, and we'll have the same situation that we saw in the 60s and 70s. We beat it. Now, and I got that, we've already talked about it, and I think I've sent you all the info. We put the money in. We put the money in even to work with Mexico. The more we can stop over there, the better it is over there. But when there's a shutdown, then things slow down. This problem, this fly, this new screwworm ain't gonna stop because there's a government shutdown. And I'm worried about that. I'm really worried about it. I hear a lot about it, but I'm glad that Sharon and other folks and Liz have brought this up to my attention, because it would affect the rural areas. And it's not only cattle, it can be probably any animal that has a wound. They lay that, it drills in, and eventually kills the live animal itself. And it's in Sabina, 70 miles out, or maybe a little closer now. I'm sorry? That's the distance on that. So this shutdown is going to affect that on it. It's usually the cattle, but I think it affects any animal that has a wound. They'll lay it, and it drills, and it kills. We beat it in the 60s and 70s. We can do it again, but not with a shutdown. They didn't have shutdowns, at least at that time, around that time. So that's why we're here on it. I got a lot of information on each category. Mayor, as you mentioned, some of the monies the federal dollars, like the highways, I think you and other folks were talking about the highways, all those projects are 80-20. 80% federal dollars, 20% state dollars, but the state already has the money, so that should keep going. Other areas, you got the money, you got a little bit of reserve that you can use, but some of y'all were telling me you were trying to get that draw down before they stopped it. Some of y'all were successful, some of y'all were not. And that's what we're facing, because we can go on for a little bit of time. We don't, but it's going to start affecting people very, very soon. So I will, the mayor and I can ask a few questions just real quickly, but I'd rather hear from the roundtable. Unless if the media wants to go out there and listen. I think it'd be good, right, Christian? I want you to hear from this, from the folks, because they got real stories on that. Whether you're a veteran, healthcare, I want to hear from them itself. So, with that, Mayor, if you want to join us at the roundtable, everybody's available, but we're going to hear from the people that that are on the part of the roundtable. Y'all ready? And we'll take the questions up there. We got some people from other parts of the district that want to hear also, and might be able to say a few words. So why don't we head over, Mayor? It's the conference room over here. Yeah.